Israel's directly related. I mean, the government is formed from Meyer Lansky's crime syndicate.
Yeah.
And a
They gave them
terrorist
all the
group.
guns to found Israel. Like they were like that part of the history. When I talk about Israel and why I oppose the whole state of Israel, not just what they're doing right now, that's where I go first. Because like when you actually look at how Israel was founded, it was a bunch of fucking mobsters arming a whole bunch of terrorists
Yep.
to kill a bunch of civilians, British civilians too. Like they bombed Brits. And like the what you're saying about how they have obfuscated the difference between the Jewish mob and the Italian mafia is a mind like most people in the regular world don't even realize there's a difference between the two. And most people don't even really realize that the Jewish mob existed, though it was by far the most powerful. It was the one that had the blackmail. They were the ones that got the blackmail on J. Edgar Hoover. And then they went to the mafia and were like, hey guys, we run the show now. Do you want in on this action?
Yeah.
But then Hollywood, which is founded by the Jewish Hollywood, Hollywood was founded by Jewish people, not contentious, because New York kicked them out. Because New York, where the cinema world was like, fuck you, Jews, you can't be here. So they all went to Hollywood and founded Hollywood. And then Hollywood, ever since, has been largely Jewish controlled. And when you look at how many movies have been made about the Jewish mob, it's almost zero.
It's almost zero.
Yeah. And growing up, like I had no idea there was a Jewish mob. I had no idea that Jews could commit crimes. But like ever since Jews got off the boat, and not all Jews, of course, not all Jews, like not all Italians, duh. But like ever since Jews got off the boat, a bunch of them were scrapping and doing organized crime shit, as anyone would do when they're an immigrant in a new land trying to make their way in fucking New York City. It just turns out that they're really fucking good at it.
No, they're really great at it because there's cover being ran left and right. And
I mean, it doesn't hurt when you're of the same religion, race, nationality, whatever you want to call it, as the Rothschild banking family, and they're like very into promoting Jewish causes. Doesn't hurt.
Well, my whole opinion, Ian, is that, and you've gotten into a little of this, but, like the Bank of England, and then above the Bank of England is the black nobility.
Yeah.
And their old banking family. So you dance with the family in which we do not speak of on the internet, because we got lit up every time. And when you did a story on them, I commented, hey man, we don't talk about these people. Bad things happen. And I think right after that, some TikTok shit happened to you right after you went after. Because
is that the timing of that? You might be right, dude.
Right after that.
I'm gonna go back and look at that. I think you're right. That was my first really big coordinated TikTok attack, where multiple creators from all around TikTok all found the same two videos of mine and put together the exact same hit piece all at once. It was intense.
And when we did the story with Mel K, people sent me like tweets from people that have that last name going, nobody talks about my family. I'm like, damn, dude, damn. But you got into it, and you really do great research. I don't know how you fucking have time to do it, but you do really in-depth research into Bank of America, because what everybody thinks is that Chase Bank is the Godzilla of all this stuff. And what I've learned is they get you looking over here, like we talked about with the Italian mob.
Yep.
Now they got you looking at Chase Bank as these big bad people. And it's really this other one that's really crazy. And Bank of America connected to this kind of Italian bank, which to me gets into the black nobility, the old Rome banking families that I think go all the way back to Babylon. That's why, like, when people are like Jew World Order, I go, I think they're middle management, man. And I think, because when we get into the Talmud, it's like the Babylonian oral history of the rabbis. Once you see Babylonian, that tells me that there's something else at work personally. But man, when you start talking about the Bank of America and its giant, how much it, Merrill Lynch owns Blackrock, but then Bank of America owns giant chunks of Merrill Lynch. Like, it was such a great video. But yeah, man, I mean, like, that's what it's just like. Even because when you bring up Israel and the British, I go, was it the Israelis manipulating the British, or the British manipulating the Israelis for the Bank of England so that they could control this trade route, which is what Khazarians have always done for thousands of years. And then you study Saudi Arabia, the head, we had Jay Dyer on. He dropped a major bomb, which changed the paradigm, which is the first king of the House of Saud was a British spy that was planted in there. Yeah. So like the British
I gotta look that up.
took over Saudi Arabia because if you control Saudi Arabia, you control Mecca, which controls, the Muslims. And then you kind of get into like, why does America have to buy oil from Saudi Arabia? Oh, this is how you control the Saudis. By constantly buying their oil, they have to kind of do what you want, even though they act like they're the top shelf of the whole thing. We kiss their ass, but in reality, the top people are like, hey, dude, this is what we need you to do. You're fucking gonna do it. Drop some bombs on Yemen because we want Yemen too, and all that stuff. But can you kind of get into that, like the Bank of America and the Blackrock and all that stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of BlackRock and like this whole look over there, not over there thing, that exact vibe is what I get when you look at BlackRock versus Vanguard. And I don't know, but I know that I rose to fame rapidly just off of BlackRock conspiracy videos because everything was pushing BlackRock conspiracy videos. You're allowed to talk about BlackRock all day long. They don't give a shit. BlackRock is like their sacrificial lamb. And one of the trains that I did on BlackRock was like, who really owns BlackRock? And you can't, on most ownership sheets, when you look it up, you don't see Merrill Lynch at the top because they own so much of BlackRock that they're considered an insider, not an institution. But they own something like 45% of BlackRock or something. There was a merger thing that happened back in the day. And Merrill Lynch is owned by Bank of America. So there's this chain of ownership that leads to Bank of America owning Merrill Lynch, owning the vast majority of BlackRock. And then when you get into, I don't even know how I got into the Bank of America back to the P family rabbit hole that I did, but somewhere digging through, I think it was that someone else had put me on the P family and I had learned about their history in North Carolina, I think it is. And then when I got to the Bank of America Wikipedia page, I noticed that one of the two banks that merged to become Bank of America was like the National Bank of North Carolina or whatever it's called. I forget the names. And I was just kind of like, that's weird. Like, let's look into that. And I think it's just like the accumulation of like, once you do one dig, the next dig is a little deeper. And once you do 100 digs, you've got like all this texture that you just start to notice connections you didn't notice. And I'm preaching to the choir here because you guys have been doing this way longer than me. But I like once this became my full-time job and I just like, and partly I don't run a podcast. So like, I don't have to talk to people. I don't have to like edit anything. I don't have to do any of this other stuff. I can just research all the time. And it started adding up really fast. And especially once I started taking notes, I was able to, now I can like go back and refer to my notes and like dots start to connect pretty quickly. And I definitely, most of the time I have no fucking clue what's going on. Like these fires, no idea, not even the slightest, but it's all data, like you were saying before. But like in the reverse, we're all getting data from everything that happens. And I try not to make my mind up too much. Like, I don't know if it's this or that. I don't know if there's an Illuminati or if it's like black nobility or if it's like Satanists or what it is. But I'm watching and getting data on all the possibilities. And it kind of is constantly reinforming what comes next.
And it's crazy. And it's like, are they taking their shot? Very early on in this show, the Q phenomenon was going on. And one of the things I said about Q was that it could be the elites telling us everything because they're just going to hit the reset button. And it somewhat turned out to be that in a weird way with COVID and the burning down of everything. And, Hillary Clinton, whatever she does. And there's another thing, like, how many 3D, 5D, 10D chess we're going to do? Like, you could go like, oh, Putin is battling the deep state, or is he helping to ethnically cleanse Ukraine? Because that's a big thing going on right there. Is he helping them to clean out that thing so they can return back to where they wanted to be? Because he is ethnically Jewish. And is he Khazarian? Does he have Khazarian roots? Is he helping them do that? Because the invasion into the Ukraine kind of happens right after COVID starts to wane, and everyone's like, hey, man, what just really happened? Let's have a discussion. I goes, oh, Putin's in the Ukraine now. So it's like, and we all know he rose to power after the Chechen theater massacre in which he basically false flagged it because he was losing the election, and he had to get the Clintons' approval to run Russia. So it's interesting to me, like how many D chess are we in
Yeah.
on all of this?
And with every single conspiracy theory, everything that happens, there's always this moment where you go to like the third, fourth, fifth dimension of what's going on. And at a certain point, I think we all have a different threshold for like evidence where you get to a point where you're like, is that next layer real or am I going too deep? Like, is it all the Jews or is it like just those ones? Like, is it the Khazarian? Like, is the Pope really in on this or not? And I like that's where I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. But I
When do you
like
step
to
back?
go,
When is a moment where you step back and you're like, okay, that's way too far for me?
for me, it's about when the earth turns flat. For me, that's when I like step back and I'm like, but I listen to them. Here's the thing is like, even with flat earth as a good example, like I fucking listened to flat earthers. I went and lived with a flat earther for a month and a half because it was like great. Dude,
That's so funny.
and
You
like,
just go live with people.
yeah, dude. And like
yourself.
the discussions you have with a flat earther are so refreshing because there's like completely unbound by all of these like
Physics.
that kind of hold by physics. And so for me, I get to the line where I'm like, I think beyond that, I think we're definitely out of reality. But I'm gonna go a few layers deeper just so I know what everyone's throwing around out there. Like, because maybe it'll, even if it's not true, maybe it'll inform me on the next thing. Or maybe like that was at like I think there's some of these where psyops get fed in. And I kind of think flat earth might be one of those. But if you go a few layers deeper and you find where it's like, oh, this is a fucking psyop getting fed to us to try to like just confuse this narrative, then the next time, because you went that deep the last time, you're already ready for seeing those kind of signs.
Anything
I
that
agree
is
with
that divisive, I have questions about immediately. Anything, especially in our community where we're torn and where like that gets people emotional in their feelings instantly. I'm like, we need to reevaluate this and really consider because
You should always have your head in the swivel.
yeah,
You should
don't
always have your
identify
head
with
in
your
the swivel.
ideas. Your ideas aren't you. If someone
And you should be
disagrees
open-minded.
with you, they're not attacking you personally.
Dude, I could not say that enough fucking times. And I think the way that I see it is that there's like information in our space, and then there's sort of like values and technique. And I think that information comes and goes. Who fucking cares what this psyop is and what this event is, and who cares the truth of these fires? Like, yeah, it matters, but it's all going to pass into the past. But the values and techniques that we as a community kind of live by and hold, that's how we gain ground. And if the more of us, as this is one good example that you just brought up, is like the more of us in this decentralized media space that hold the value that you are not your ideas and you don't need to get emotional about it, you don't need to take it personally, and you can just talk about ideas, we become more and more immune to psyops, and we become more and more actionable and more resilient when they try to emotionally control us. And so I try to really focus on in the background, like, what are those values that are just inherently positive for us to adopt? Like, what are the ways that I can do my job that will never lead me astray? Like asking questions, never a problem to ask questions. And I try to hone in on those and get really good at those. And I think that one you just brought up is one of the biggest ones, that like, you're not your ideas. You can change your mind. You can be fucking wrong. Does not matter. You can talk to people that think different things. Does not mean you're a different person.
So